Hey everyone, what's going on? Joey Contino here, and standing behind me is 216 Fern Avenue. It was just listed online for over $2 million for sale, and this house has a lot of secrets. And we're gonna go inside and give you a tour, but to me, when I saw this house hit the market and some of the photos we saw online, I was like, wait a minute. This story has some really cool history. To start things off, this house has been here longer than Wildwood Crest itself, even though it's in Wildwood Crest. Yeah, and that's just a tease. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe, you turn on notifications, and you give this video a thumbs up. A special thank you out to my patrons on patreon.com. It's because of them we can do fun, cool history videos like this. If you want to support the channel and have your name at the end of the video, all you have to do is click the links in the description below. That being said, let's get started. Great news, we now have our new 2025 Christmas ornaments in stock. Here is a seagull driving the tram car, and yes, seagulls, they can drive. And our other one is Santa as a lifeguard. I love this one. Look at those shorts there with snowflakes. Which one do you guys like? I'll put the link down in the description of the video if you want to buy one of these today, or one of our other 5 Christmas ornaments themed to the Wildwoods. Hopefully we'll see you guys on the beach. Now, I know what you're saying here. Wait a minute. How could a house in Wildwood Crest be older than Wildwood Crest itself? And that actually involves a lot of very interesting information here on the island. Because technically speaking, Wildwood Crest, it is the newer section of the Wildwoods. At one point, the section that we're at was mostly just all beaches, or actually underwater. And in order to understand a lot of that, you have to understand our streets. Because behind me, this right here is Seaview Avenue. Seaview Avenue, if you actually go back to the 1800s, this was the beach. And I mean it. This was sand dunes, and right here was the ocean. That means when this house was built, it was built on the beach. At that point, it was 1898, and Wildwood Crest, as you know it, was not a thing. At this very moment, the Baker brothers were expanding. And in Wildwood Crest, we had a few different things going on. First and foremost, Lower Township down here, you know how we can drive right through from Wildwood Crest into Cape May? Yeah, that didn't exist. There was a giant inlet there called Turtle Gut Inlet. This is where the Revolutionary War, or at least one of the battles, took place, and that deals with Brigantine Nancy. There's another history video we can break down on that. But at this rate, as they were building out, as the Baker brothers were building out, Rambler Avenue was the furthest you were able to go. And when it came to the streets, right here, this was the water and actually a little bit of a boardwalk. And you're probably saying, wait a minute, then how did all these other streets happen? Because you've got Atlantic and Ocean, and this is Seaview. I don't get it. Well, if you pull up old maps of Wildwood Crest, you would know that the Wildwoods were expanding in really 2 different directions. One, we're going south, Rambler Avenue. Then obviously you had the construction in the early 1900s where they were pushing past Rambler, filling in Turtle Gut Inlet. And then on top of that, developers themselves were saying, you know what? The beaches are getting bigger. We could probably build more houses. And at that point in the 50s, more do-up motels and etc. And so every single, I would say, few decades, another street was born. Another street was born. And so if you look at old maps, Seaview was actually called Atlantic Avenue. Then they made it a block longer, called that street Atlantic Avenue, and then called this street over here Seaview, because you could see the view, or it was a view of the sea. And then expanded one more time to Ocean Avenue, because at one point, that was the ocean. See how that happens? And we've got great maps showcasing this. On the left-hand side is the end, Rambler Avenue. Looking south, you can see where it says Atlantic Avenue. That is blue because that's where the water was. And as we zoom in here, you can kind of see in a little bit of the yellow, it says Boardwalk. That is where the beach was. And Atlantic Avenue at that time, by the way, was a gravel road. It was really, truly not a road, but when they're making these maps, they have to label things. And so at that point, they just called it Atlantic Avenue. That map was from 1909. This one is from 1944, and as you could tell, Turtle Gut Inlet had been fully filled in. Streets are now moving more southern, and when you look to see where Atlantic Avenue was, it now says Seaview. And now the street underneath of it says Atlantic Avenue, and the blocks are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We fast forward one more time to 1977, and in this aerial, you can see that Ocean Avenue has now been fully built. There's a lot of empty spaces in which motels are going to be built in, but now you could see Ocean Avenue. You could see where now the actual beach starts, which at one point they thought they would add on more streets. That's right, they actually thought they would go even further.
And the best part is, in the 1920s, there used to be a bunch of maps that were illustrated to show what houses are where. So we're actually able to trace this house all the way down to it being on the beach and the boardwalk and the street changes and the names. So this house itself, being older than Wildwood Crest, has so much history. And on top of that, has one very unique thing that not many houses here in Wildwood have. And that's a basement. Seriously. So I figured, let's go ahead and go inside and share with you what this looks like, because when you see the woodwork and the stained glass, you're gonna be like, wait a minute, that exists here? Yeah, it's gorgeous. Let's head inside.
And I wanted to share this photo with you that the owners actually gave me of this house. And at this point, I believe it's the 60s. I want you to pay attention that at the very front of the house, it has a balcony on top. A few things we're going to go over, including these columns. So keep in mind of this photo as we start touring this house.
Before we head in here, remember something, that this was at a time in which electricity was not running through houses. Everything was gas. The light fixtures, they were gas. And so as we move in, I'm going to share with you a lot of cool little tidbits about this house. First, we're going to start out here on the patio. Going to make our way down. These are the original columns and woodwork that was here when they built this house. A little bit different today because at one point the decking itself here, all the wood was rotted, so they figured out, let's just concrete it to be safe. And as they were restoring things, you could see these corner pieces here, how they're kind of squared off. They weren't always like that. They were actually done with scrolls. And there's one example left outside, which is this one right here you can actually take a look at. Of course, over time, some of that stuff, because of the weather, falls apart. A little tease of the stained glass. You can kind of see through this window right here. But at one point, in the very beginning, this was a bed and breakfast. So you can imagine coming here in the morning, you're staying here, get yourself a beautiful view of, remember, this was at one point over here, the beach. And so you'd be able to sit here and smell the ocean air and feel the mist of the ocean as it was right over here. You can see there's a lot of space in this yard because back then they weren't building on top of each other. They actually gave you space. And so like this place here, you can see it's enclosed. A lot of some really, really old trees. I'm going to show you the back. I know this one, they've made a lot of improvements over the years. Like they added a pool back here, which is really cool. Obviously not historically to it, but you can see their backyard. But when you're up here, you have the sense that you're pretty high off of the ground. Because when they built these things, they did do that. Because remember, yes, it was at the beach and water could come up. So just looking down, you can kind of see that we're a couple of feet off of the ground. And that's because there is a basement down there. And we'll show you that as soon as we get inside. Something I just wanted to share with you real quick. The owner just showed this to me. Their granddaughter was out kind of digging in the backyard. We're talking about how beautiful this backyard is, and this is how they used to build backyards. And obviously in your backyard, where you probably had some landscaping, you probably put rocks or something, or some kind of outline. Well, they found a few of these. That's right, do you see this hook here? These would hook into each other, and that would be the ornamentation for your landscaping from the Victorian era. How absolutely neat, right? And it's, of course, it's heavy-duty cast iron. So cool. Now, since 1960, this house was a private home. It wasn't a business at that point. But there have been stories and some people down here about this when it was originally a bed and breakfast. families would come here. You can rent multiple rooms. Things, of course, changed over those years. They moved kitchens and walls, and some rooms were redone, but there's still some original woodwork and stained glass from when this was a bed and breakfast. And so as we go inside, imagine it as the bed and breakfast, in which you would come in and be greeted by this gorgeous, gorgeous staircase. I mean, look at this woodwork. And of course, the thing that would greet you, and I want to share with you now while I still have some light, is this stained glass. In which, if you're watching this video, we're actually trying to pinpoint the artist and who this is. Keep in mind that it was 1898 when this house was built, which means it had to have been painted and created at that time. And here's one of the other side windows in the artwork. Look how beautiful even that purple is. I think that maybe this was a piece that was made for multiple houses on the island, or at least nearby. But if you have any history or any knowledge about stained glass, we'd love to hear your take on it. And this is the top of the main steps here. You can look back down, I'll pan over for you. And you can see how this woodwork continues. I mean, look at the spindles. It is gorgeous. And we'll come back up here again in a moment. I want to go down the stairs and share with you the first story and the basement. So let's make our way back downstairs. We're going to make our way back downstairs and through one of the living rooms. Throughout this house, they had many different fireplaces. This is just one of 4 I'll share with you today, in which you'll see all the beautiful work they've done. Look at this. This is crazy stonework, right? And you can see the mantle. But while this is in here, the coolest piece, I would say, is the grandfather clock, which I don't know if the camera can really pick up the amazing detail on this clock. Do you see that moon? Maybe that's the sun. And all the mechanisms inside. This thing is gorgeous. As we're going around, I want you to take note of all the woodwork. This is another stained glass. Today it's a little bit cloudy, so you're not going to see as much of the color. So I'll get a little bit close for you to take a look at. How awesome. And then we're going to cross the other way. There used to be columns in here that were removed not too long ago. I'll show you examples of that in a moment. As I mentioned before, this was all done with gas lighting. So this is not an original fixture. So you have to imagine, different kind of fixtures, I guess you could say. I don't have an example for you here. But I mean, look at these beautiful lamps. These are not original, but imagine this, but gas lamp. We're going to make our way into another one of the grand rooms. You see this fireplace. Every single fireplace is a very, very different style. You can see this stonework here. And there's a lot of storage places they built back then, which I think is really neat. Like here, you could see underneath the windows. Throughout the house, they have a lot of things like this as well. Of course, I have to stop for a second to admire these archways. Do you see this? Whew. There's almost so much detail. Sometimes it's kind of hard to pay attention to all of it. I want to show you this archway in particular because you can see these half columns here with the scrolls on top. That is a good example of what also used to be here. Full size. You can see a little bit of the boxes that were here going all the way up. You can really see the craftsmanship. Something really neat to share with you is that this is a double fireplace. It doesn't seem like it from this angle, but let me walk you into the next room. Because, as I said before, all the fireplaces look different. But if you continue through this archway, you'll see the fireplace changes. It actually becomes cornered off. See how it's round on the corners here? And becomes this one. So my guess is that when it was a bed and breakfast, they probably themed out these rooms to be a little bit different, which is why the fireplaces are very different. But you still have a lot of beautiful detail in here. You have the archways that continue. More beautiful woodwork. And then we're gonna make our way into what is now the kitchen, but at one point was not. This was more of a cupboard. And the wall itself actually ended right here. When they bought this house in the 60s, they decided to add in a big kitchen, but the original kitchen was through here. So when you come in this room, you'll see that's why you have the light switches and a lot of your outlets at this level, because this was a countertop coming out with a sink right here in between these windows. And this was another door coming in, because remember, this was a bed and breakfast. And so there were a couple of things that were kind of hidden and secret in these kind of things, in which, you know, you want the guests to be out there having a good time, but not really seeing many of the people working here. And so they would enter through the back like this, come in the kitchen, make the food, and then this is what's really neat, is the fact that there were hidden steps. I showed you already the main steps, which is right behind me. But here, which used to be the kitchen, this room here, it's not a room. It's actually steps up to the next door. So they could bring the food and things, whatever they need to, upstairs without having to use the grand staircase. Pretty neat, right? But what I find even cooler is what's behind this door. This is the basement. Now, I want you to remember something. Before we make our way down there, I showed you this house is elevated up. I mean, you go up a lot of steps just to get to this level. So now we're heading down. And so, while I say it's a basement, it's sort of a basement, but not at the same time. Let me show you. We're gonna head downstairs. Okay, so first we're gonna make a left. This at one point used to be the washer, used to be over here, the dryer over here. Sort of like every other house, I used to have that stuff on the first floor or the ground floor because of, well, it was heavy. But let me open this door for you so you can see something really interesting. I mentioned it being a basement. You can kind of see how basement, it's really only underneath by maybe 3 or 4 feet. But still, I'm gonna say maybe 3 feet, but still, the basement. But also, people are saying, well, doesn't it flood? Do you see how thick this wall is? Starting here, going all the way to here. This thing is like about a foot wide. And according to the homeowner, the only time they ever get water in here is when it like really comes down. The water gets saturated into the ground and it's underneath, and it's really not much either that really comes in here. It's just super dry. It doesn't even smell like it's been wet at all. But you could see the original brickwork and a lot of stuff down here. So you can see the brickwork here and the plaster on top of it. Well, yeah, very dry. But what's really neat is that they were telling me that used to come in, used to be a small little bathroom thing over here. They got rid of that years ago. But you would come in and go this way to take showers after coming off the beach. I'll turn on the light for you, you can actually see it. This used to be the showers, because upstairs, it all used to be clubbed tubs. So this was the only place you used to shower, which is, I mean, to me, it's crazy to think about. You get all the sand off of you before you go inside the house. So now you could tell people that, yeah, there are houses on an island that have basements. It's a couple feet under, but yeah, still counts. We're gonna make our way through what used to be the kitchen, upstairs. I already showed you guys the stained glass. Just like downstairs, how there was that seating underneath, they have that here as well. And we're gonna make our way up. Remember I told you, it used to be a bed and breakfast, okay? And the rooms still have numbers on them from when it was. So I'll give you an example. Here's room number 1. Still the number 1 on it. This would be room number 2. And there it is. The number 2. And this room here, I feel like was like maybe like the best suite in the whole place because it had its own fireplace. That's right, a cast iron fireplace. And it is gorgeous. And just like in today's hotels, you can get rooms that are connecting. While this side is a closet, which interestingly enough actually had some kind of wallpaper on it that was fuzzy. They wound up painting that. This is not a closet. I mean, now it is today, but back then you can rent maybe the place next door. Mom and Dad would stay in here and then come through here and maybe the kids would stay in room number 3. And this was another room. You can see there's also another door in the back. So you could rent all 3. And at one point, what's even cooler, is the fact that there's a door here. At one point, there used to be railings outside. And this could be a balcony to hang out on. When the family bought in the 60s, they didn't find it safe. So they said, oh, you're not going out there. So they closed that off. But this is room number 3. And room number 4. And there's that door that would have connected. There's a closet here. Over here, this bathroom's been redone. But this is a massive bathroom. But this used to be room number 5 at one point, with a closet. This used to be a tin roof. They were telling me they had to scrape it and paint it every X amount of years. But now there's a washer and dryer up here. And remember how I mentioned to you that we had those secret steps? Well, they led up to here, in which it's locked right now, but they use it for storage. You would go from that kitchen all the way up here, and they would bring your food up to your room, or whatever you need. But then, what I found really interesting is I'm like, wait a minute, this house looks really big. There's another story here. Now, while you had the grand staircase here for everyone, going upstairs, they didn't put in another grand one. It was just regular steps up. And so you would go upstairs, and there are so many rooms up here. So, I mean, you can go around and you could just see there's room number 6. Here's number 7. And you can see these little things over here? Imagine this. They knew that, oh, we have this weird slant. Can't really put anything over there. So they built in storage. These are all storage. So you're coming on vacation, you can unload your stuff and put it inside. They seriously thought about everything. Here's yet another room. This is room number 8. More storage. Number 9. This is looking out front. Number 10. See, there's a lot of rooms in here. Then to the left, number 11. Which, I mean, you have to imagine yourself. At one point, this was the only house on Fern Avenue. So you had a good view because Rambler's there. So the water used to be about, I think, 6 blocks that way. And you probably had an ocean view here. And of course, the ocean would have been that way, which would have meant that the window in here and the window in here would have had ocean views, which is crazy to think about. But I want to share with you this bathroom. This bathroom, of course, is not the original bathroom. I'll turn on the light switch for you. This was redone, I believe, in the 60s. You could see the pastel yellow. Seems like this had to have been like late 50s, early 60s. I would say maybe 66, 65-ish. But imagine the club tubs in here. This was the size, by the way, downstairs. I showed you that big bathroom. This is the size it used to be, and 5 used to be kind of like this before they made that into that laundry room. But even here, you can even see the accents of the arches on the windows, which is incredible. This is kind of like a mix of like, you know, you got over here 1898 into the 1960s. So yeah, it's just so much history in this house. Like I said before, it's been around longer than Wildwood Crest itself. It's been around, I mean, imagine how many things this place had seen. And imagine the stories of people having a good time on the beach, coming back after a day, showering in the basement, coming up here, getting some really good food. I mean, I can just imagine even the outfits they were wearing when they were coming out. And at one point, like I said before, there used to be a boardwalk outside. They would maybe go for a night stroll, listen to the ocean. Coming here back then, you know, you're talking about pre-depression, which I think kind of explains a little bit of the stained glass and all that. It's just another world. It's so much history right here in Wildwood Crest. That aside, this house is now for sale. I think it's listed for 2.6. Guys, if you are a history nerd, this is the house for you. But let me know what you think about this house. There are so many more things that I've yet to even share. I mean, what's cool, let me just share this with you real quick. Back here is a ship's bell. Do you see that? It's a massive ship's bell. It's a cool story because the owner, when he bought it in the 60s, you can actually see him up here, was a doctor. One of his patients, he was very big into taking nautical things and making them into things. And so someone gifted him a bell. I think over here, I think I missed it a little bit earlier. Let me show you this. They took like a ship's navigational light and made it into another light, which is really cool. And then over here, you see what that is? I'm not going to tell you. Write in the comment section, and I'll tell you if you're right or not. Let's just say that when I move this table, it also moves and stays steady. And you use it for navigation. And so this house is just so cool. I'm actually even noticing now, they even have cubbies here and here. You would come in and take your shoes off, and there's a place to store things. There's so much history in this house. If you are interested, I'll put all the information in here. I know they're having an open house soon. But you could own some Wildwood history. And as a history nerd down here in the Wildwoods, I would rather this stay a house and it be preserved and saved than rather see it demolished, because it's just such a beautiful house. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Thank you to the family and the real estate company for allowing me to come out here and film this. If you have a cool house here in Cape May County, I mean anywhere in Cape May County, I would love to come in and document it. We need to save this stuff for the history books. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. If you haven't done so yet, please do subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. And as always, I'll see you on the beach, which at one point, I guess, right here, used to be the beach. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.